This video and everything I say in it is by no means medical advice, nor am I trying to encourage anyone to start taking any substances. I only want to share my experience and my growth and to help popularize what I think is interesting information that might become huge in the future. We can't control what people decide to do, but we can spread information that might be helpful in enhancing their safety.
Hi guys. So I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a really long time. As you know from my previous videos, I've struggled with Aspergers my entire life. And it's only been the past 4 years that I've really succeeded in being able to get through it. And I wanted to be able to talk about what I did to be able to fight the symptoms of having it. I don't think people know how bad it was for me unless it was the people that were there from the very beginning. So today I want to go over what MDMA has done for me in the past 4 years to be able to mediate the symptoms.
So coincidentally, over these 4 years, MDMA has gained traction for being very promising in psychotherapy in human clinical trials thanks to organizations like MAPS. I won't spend time talking about the raw data, but if you're interested in knowing more about it, there will be links in my description that lead to relevant articles and studies pertaining to how effective it's become and how people are pushing for it to become legal for medical use.
MDMA or something like that. Now why? I've never done it, but why do I think if I had a trauma, I guarantee it is the fucking first thing I would do.
2/3 of the people who participated in the study no longer qualified to be described as having PTSD at the end of the study.
There's the real potential for it to become part of the mainstream of PTSD treatment. It's almost like the rules of the game are changing right in front of us.
Personally for me, I find it pretty cool that what jump-started fixing my life close to 5 years ago ended up becoming something that actually had scientific backing. So it feels pretty good to know that my friend and I were on the right track all along.
Okay, so I feel like the first thing I should go over is explain what it's like to have Asperger's, so you guys have a better understanding of what it was like to be me. So try to picture a glass wall between you and everybody else. So let's say two people next to you are having a conversation between themselves, unless it's within your field of interests or a very simple conversation, it's actually just going to go one ear out the other because you only absorb information of things that are directly interesting to you. So if a person tries to come up to you and befriend you, you're not going to really be able to respond to them accordingly with what they have to say because the only things you have to talk about are things that interest you. And it's really not enjoyable to go through life only being able to absorb things that directly interest you because you don't get to really appreciate the things around you and you don't really notice things. Which now that I kind of got myself out of that, I have to say is really awful. But another thing is it's really hard to understand emotional topics, especially when it comes to yourself. So let's say a parent or something comes to you and tells you that they care about you, you're not going to know how to reciprocate that. And for me personally, that ended up in me being frustrated and upset because I felt like I was being antagonized for not understanding because those people are not in my head, so they don't understand why I can't reciprocate it. And that made me very alienated from everybody since I couldn't reciprocate emotions or basically have any friends. I would usually stay in my room all day with nobody to talk to. And when people would invite me to their house, like an acquaintance or something, I would usually just bring my laptop and kind of seclude myself in their house. And the thing is, people don't really put themselves in other people's shoes, even though they know you have a condition, especially something like Asperger's because it's not directly black and white. So they're not going to really know that you don't know how to talk to them. And they're not going to really sit and bother thinking about it either because that's not really how people are. So they'll just end up looking down at you or kind of just not acknowledging you because of that. And another thing is, I couldn't defend myself against anybody. I had massive social anxiety because of my countless failures of talking to people. So because of that, I couldn't like defend myself against anybody. I would get bullied constantly, even by teachers. Like there was this one teacher in elementary school, in art school in the first grade. I was next to this other kid, and this kid was drawing on the board. He was trying to impress the little boy next to me by blaming me for writing on the desk, even though it was clearly him. And I was forced to erase it with a rag. And when I failed to do so because my arms were too weak, he violently shoved my arm and told the entire class, "See, this is how easy it is. You should know how to do this." And then the entire class pointed and laughed at me. At the time, I didn't know how evil and messed up everybody was for doing that. I obviously just thought that there was something inherently wrong with me because I had no knowledge of the world. So situations like that made it very hard for me to talk, and the more they happened, the more they profoundly damaged me. So lastly, another thing is I didn't absorb information, so I didn't understand social cues. So when a guy would hit on me, I didn't actually know that he was hitting on me, and I just thought that he was being sweet and nice because I never had those kinds of experiences before and I didn't know what they meant. So that led me into a lot of very awful situations. So yeah, that's a brief example of what it's like to have Asperger's. So 3 years into my career, I had basically tried everything until one day my friend had told me to try MDMA. At first, I was kind of feeling iffy about it because I had a crazy drug-obsessed ex, so I didn't really take drugs seriously because he kind of gave me like a bad image of it because of how he viewed them and how he treated them. My friend who I was going to do it with was extremely against drugs, but since we've tried everything and nothing worked, she was willing to give anything a chance. So we did some research and we saw that it could actually be very safe as long as you follow all the safety precautions and you take the right supplements beforehand. So we ended up taking it, and 1 hour in, I wasn't really feeling anything. And my friend was just kind of talking and I was just kind of there quiet. And then eventually, as I started rising, I felt like this pent-up emotion inside me. And then I just, out of the blue, started crying and bursting out into tears. And my friend was really confused because what she was saying had nothing to do with anything emotional. But out of the blue, I was just given a completely different second perspective. And I realized that I actually had no reason to dislike myself or think lowly of myself because of the things that people put me through, or because of the condition that I had, or because I wasn't doing well in school, or because I couldn't talk to people. I had this overwhelming sense of peace with myself, and I was actually able to fully connect my thoughts. I actually had things to say. I was actually having a conversation with her, and she was just sitting there shocked because I was saying things like my viewpoints and opinions on things that she never knew that I had the entire time. And to me, it was crazy because I didn't know that I had those opinions either until that very moment. And I was just able to talk completely fluently like a normal person. And then while the session was going on, eventually I really realized how much I really mattered to myself at every turn. The only reason I disassociated from myself was because I didn't want to take in people's negative opinions of me. It hurt me so much how the image of me was painted onto me that I just didn't want to feel any of it anymore. So I just stopped thinking of myself at all. But the only reason I would even do that is because I had so much care for myself. And another thing is I was actually able to reciprocate back love that people gave to me. So, for example, my friend who was helping me out through this entire thing, the entire time I had never really said thank you to them because I wasn't able to give back empathy to people who help me or people who care about me. But in that very moment, I cried and I told them, thank you so much for doing all of this for me. I realized that you're the only person that really tried this much, and I'm so sorry that I never said thank you until now. And then I wanted to tell my mom how much I loved her because I was never able to do that before. And and sorry, and then I was basically able to tell everybody how much I cared about them and what they meant to me, and I was never able to do that, and that was honestly the greatest thing. Being able to finally tell everybody. But yeah, so that was my first time with MDMA. So it was a massive experience for me, and because of that, I had wanted to do it again. So I did as much research as I could because I wanted to be as safe as possible, and I spaced it out between like once every month or once every 2 months. And I learned a lot about the safety precautions that you need to take to be safe on MDMA. Like, for example, first of all, I definitely recommend, if you're interested in doing it, that you should seek a psychiatrist's help, because there are things that you can take to do it with a psychiatrist or a professional. Definitely don't do it with any random person. Do it with the person that you feel would help you the absolute most. Don't do it with just like a random friend or anything, because it'll absolutely ruin the experience of the possible therapy that it can give you. Don't do it at parties. If MDMA is given to you at a party, it's probably not MDMA. There has been a huge confusion with MDMA because people confuse MDMA with Molly. And Molly is like the party drug that they give you at raves and stuff. And it usually comes in like different colors and like little pills and stuff. And it usually make you want to dance and stuff like that. That's absolutely not MDMA. That's probably MDMA mixed with like speed or something. Probably like 10% MDMA and then 90% something else. Do not take that. You will absolutely damage yourself. If you're on MDMA, you should want to only sit down and talk to the person. You should never want to actually dance. The drug does not make you want to do that. So please be very safe and do it in a setting where you know exactly what you're doing with a professional. Please do as much research as you possibly could before ever considering taking this. And make sure that your body temperature is good. And then also make sure that you're taking all of the supplements beforehand. Do research on all of them to see what you have to buy to take before. It'll really help you because how MDMA works is that it makes your serotonin go at like a high. So once you go down, you're going to feel a little bit of a low because it used up your serotonin in that moment. So what you can do is you can take a bunch of supplements to not feel the crash as much. And yeah, definitely do research on supplements. I can put a list in the description if it helps. And on MDMA, I practiced being able to talk and be very fluent and snappy with what I wanted to say. And eventually, I was actually able to just translate that to being sober. And I was able to do all that stuff sober very easily after a couple sessions. So then I used it to just catch up on all the things I missed out. So we kind of just stopped talking about random stuff and emotional topics. And eventually, we stopped having casual conversations and I started using it to catch up on things that I didn't absorb back then. So I started catching up on important science and philosophy and psychology and a bunch of knowledgeable topics that I actually, for once in my life, was interested in. Everything was interesting to me. All those topics that I thought were boring and never wanted to learn, I wanted to learn all of it. I thought knowledge was fascinating. I wanted to be knowledgeable in everything and be able to have fluent conversations with people about that knowledge.
Ironically, about a year ago, there was an article published that spoke of a study showing how MDMA's effects on oxytocin opened up a critical period in the brain of adult mice that's usually only seen during adolescence, which could be responsible in decreasing social fear. There was another similar study that showed limited positive results in reducing that social fear in people with autism. I'm basically here to say that I went from not being able to have anything to say at all or empathizing to becoming someone who has become really good at empathizing with others, enough to the point that I've gone as far as being able to help other people with their problems. I highly suspect that the reason I was able to attenuate my social issues that came from Aspergers or any other flaws I had with communication in general, such as being unable to structure my thoughts into words, came from the fact that not only did MDMA open up my mind up to that specific state, but also because of a mechanism called neuroplasticity. For those who don't know, neuroplasticity is the mechanism in your brain that allows new neuron connections to form. So, for example, if you practice a skill enough number of times, it becomes second nature to you, and that's because of neuroplasticity. I think practicing being able to communicate, understand people, and empathize with others through the elevated state that MDMA offers was what cemented these permanent changes.
Maps, if you're watching this, I definitely think MDMA has the power to potentially help severe cases of Aspergers like me. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching and witnessing everything I have to say about my struggles and everything I went through in my journey. I sincerely appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye-bye.